Hello everyone and welcome live to 3Y TV, tonight's broadcast of the Total Nonstop Racing League. It is the penultimate round of the Shue's Lawn Care Service Cup Series here from Twin Ring Motegi in Motegi, Japan. Garrett, NASCAR once upon a time went to the Suzuka Raceway in Japan for several non-points events, but here tonight at Twin Ring Motegi, points are on the line and we will be one race closer to crowning a TNR Cup Series champion.
Peter, points are on the line absolutely here as we conclude our season a week from now. Last week, Watkins Glen, Philip Scott was the big winner on the track, but in the point standings, the big winner was Chuck Sweeting. Went from second place to the points lead because Tom Bourne had a rough day, so everybody's looking to have a solid day here at the Twin Ring Motegi, a track that a lot of these guys have not run many laps at. But reports are from pit road that these guys have figured out this track and they're waiting to put on a good show for us.
Yeah, we're expecting a great show here as Tom Bourne is the fastest in practice in his number 16 machine with a 36.38 second lap time. But we will see if he can back that up here in qualifying very shortly. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Sorry, a little bit late on the link for tonight's event. Hurried home from work. I mean, literally just barely made it here in time to get everything squared away. So I do apologize for that, but we have action and race cars coming out onto the racetrack. There is Jamar Dumas in the number 28 Texaco Haviland machine. And Garrett, a pretty good field here tonight. Just looking up and down the scoring pylon, just a good number of cars here for the penultimate race of the season, which is something you love to see. I've been part of many leagues over the years where the car count tends to diminish as the season goes on. But, I mean, we picked up Shane Ewing again here late in the season. I haven't had Ewing in a while, so great to see Shane back here in the Total Nonstop Racing League as Jamar Dumas comes around to complete, or at least start his first-time lap on this very unique racetrack.
Yeah, it's great to have Shane back. Great to have a decent field here. And Peter, I guess some of these guys, even with their sketchy past, were able to get a passport and head to Japan, so I guess the government's letting more people slip through the cracks. But this track, Peter, this is like my first laps here. I think I've run here once, so I hope Jamar has the fast line, Peter, but maybe you could take us through this track a little bit and tell our viewers where these guys are going to be looking for speed.
Yeah, this is a unique racetrack. You can see that bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That graphic indicates the fact that this racetrack, well, it's got a wider turn number 1 and 2 than it does turn number 3 and 4. You see the 28 going into 1 and 2. You're not going to be quite wide open through turn number 1 and 2, but it very much gets tighter right here on exit. Look how sharp it gets on exit out of turn 2. You're going to have to watch for that outside wall. You see the 28 down there on the bottom side of the racetrack there just to prevent it from hitting the wall. But currently, Dumas fastest of all. Then right down to the white line through turn number 3 and 4. That's where we expect to see these drivers on the bottom of that corner. But we'll watch that groove. We'll see various lines in play here tonight. I can pretty much guarantee it. This racetrack race is so unique. You carry so much speed into these corners, but because of its unique shape, you can kind of race it a little backwards. You can kind of back up your corners a little bit and try and get the run up off the corner, as Bill Edwards was the provisional pole sitter. But as I say that, Bronson Stafford, look at the number 61 machine with the peak antifreeze Home Depot scheme that we saw him in last week. Now here is the number 99 and with a unique scheme. And Garrett, I think we kind of said, let's see if we can get some Japanese type schemes here this week. And I think we got that out of the number 99 here.
Yeah, Peter, I appreciate the scheme. I'm not going to try to pronounce anything that's on the hood there of the 99, but Philip said that obviously Ninja Warrior originated in Japan. This is kind of showing them some appreciation and respect for a cause that's near and dear to his heart. So it's good to see, and not too shabby of a qualifying run there for the 99. Fourth position is our Canadian friend Floppy is out there. Was that his last lap, or was he taking one of his 1 minute plus laps there, Peter? Looks like I don't see him on the board. Oh, yes, I do. He's sixth on the board.
Yeah, he is sixth place on the board. Here is Bob Giaquinto, and Bob had a great run back at Watkins Glen. Just missed out on a podium. Just able to get down to pit road speed there in the tabletop trio Dodge. Looks like for our good friend Bob, well down the running order, about a second off the lap time of Chuck Sweeting. Chuck Sweeting currently pipped Tom Boren, who was fastest in the practice session, by 0.04 of a second. Once again, very tight up at the top of the leaderboard, and of course tight in the championship standings as well between Boren, Sweeting, Scott, and company. So Garrett, a lot to play for here tonight as Jason Schue looks to be our last qualifier. Maybe Shane Ewing will be able to jump back out there in the number 32, but I don't see him putting a lap time in just yet. So looks like it will be the number 3 that will round out qualifying. But Garrett, a lot on the line, like I said, and really some good battles and points.
Yeah, the points race is tight, Peter. We were talking about this before we went on air. I mean, Chuck Sweeting has a 7-point lead. We've seen how a double-digit lead can evaporate in one bad race. Single-digit lead for Chuck. He's not going to rest on that tonight. He's going to look to score as many stage points and get his best finish as possible. But I would say, Peter, like you said, the top 4 here between Chuck Sweeting, Tom Boren 7 points back, Bronson Stafford 12 points back from our leader, and Philip Scott 25 points back. That's your group there. I mean, Matt Muir in 5th place, 44 points back. That's very much on the outside looking in. But you see these guys, those other 3 or 4 guys ahead of him finish 13, 14, 15, 16 tonight, and he finishes up in the top 3 or something. Maybe we'll have something to talk about as a 5-horse race next week at Homestead. Yeah,
that would be mighty impressive. Looks like we got cars gridding out there on the racetrack. Let's see if we can bring up tonight's starting lineup for the Japanese Showdown 150 here in the Schue's Lawn Care Service Cup Series. Starting on the pole here tonight, driver of the number 75. He is our points leader. That is Chuck Sweeting in the Mystery Motorsports machine. Tom Boren in the number 16. The Sky Motorsports Ford will be rolling off from the outside of row number 1, just 0.04 of a second slower than Chuck Sweeting. Bronson Stafford, the first of the Canadians in the field, will be rolling off on the inside of row number 2, with Philip Scott, last week's race winner on the road course at Watkins Glen International, will be rolling off in 4th. Bill Edwards and Mike Tellier, the second Canadian in the field, rolling off on row number 3. Jamar Dumas and Jonathan Gaston, good lap time out of that, number 28. We rode on board with him. At one point, was our provisional pole sitter. Did finally drop back to the 7th spot. But Jonathan Gaston also good qualifying lap time. Usually we see a couple of Mr. Gaston fans. Of course, he's a teacher, and usually we get some kids in the chat rooting on that number 72. We'll see if we have any of those here shortly. Matt Muir in the number 77 on the inside of row number 5, with Vincent Valvano rounding out our top 10, G.
Welcome back, Vinny. It's good to see Vinny back on track. Brandon Bookweld in the 96 will start 11th. Bob Giaquinto in the 23 will start to his outside in 12th. Jason Schue, our series sponsor, will start in the 13th position, the number 3 machine. Robert Tripp to his outside in the number 35, starting 14th. Welcome back, Shane Ewing, a fantastic competitor, and I don't expect to see him staying in 15th very long if he grids up. But I actually don't think I see that number 32 back there, Peter. And Garrett Gleason's up here in the booth, but just registered for the session just in case crap hit the fan, Peter.
Yeah, not seeing Ewing out there on the racetrack like you mentioned, so we'll hopefully see him back in total nonstop racing competition here soon. Of course, the Dizzy Motorsports drivers, Garrett, always fast here. They were one of the dominant forces a couple of seasons ago here in this Schue's Lawn Care Service Cup Series. So great to see them back. There's a look of the backstretch here, looking towards turn number 2 as the field continues to roll on by. Tonight's interesting race fact is the fact that this racetrack is now in a state of disrepair after an earthquake. The same earthquake that kind of caused the Fukushima disaster actually caused a buckling of this oval surface, and they just haven't raced the oval surface since IndyCar left, and my understanding is they've just kind of left it in a state of disrepair. So you couldn't even do this nowadays. Of course, the iRacing scan is from quite some time ago. Pace car heads down to pit road. Green flag in the air. Tom Boren, remember, he had a bunch of wheel spin last week. Garrett didn't even make it to turn number 1 before having problems. This week, though, the number 16 able to hold on, but Chuck Sweeting Speaking of holding on, looks like he's going to hold on to the race lead as they come out of turn number 2. Can he clear him? Yes, he does. Good start for our points leader.
Yeah, top 4 in points, Peter, running 1 through 4 on the racetrack, and I expect these guys to fight as hard as they can for these first 25 laps because you want those 8 stage points for winning this first stage, this rolling stage, Peter. Laps 25 and laps 50. I think these guys could go about 35 laps on a tank of fuel, according to Floppy, who was nice enough to tell me that before the break. But we're just taking a look here at 2 different entries into the corner. I think they're going to try to get to the bottom here, like you said. And I heard these cars are a little loose on exit, so we're going to look at these guys being a little easy, putting the throttle down, as we look at Matt Muir and Bob Giaquinto there running side by side.
Yeah, this is a little bit further back in the pack battle for the 10th position. This is the first side-by-side action we're seeing out on the racetrack right now. Vincent Valvano just a little bit up the road, the Talking Giants Ford Taurus, battling with another Ford Taurus, Jamar Dumas right there. Is wiggle out of Giaquinto. Also a wiggle there out of the 64. As Garrett, I think we're starting to see what you were just talking about, that these cars are getting a little bit squirrely here, even 3 laps into the run.
Yeah, I think hopefully, Peter, I mean, from experience that we both have on track, you would think that as some heat gets in the tires, these guys are going to struggle a little bit less with that. But we've seen it go the other way, where these guys will struggle the whole run. And we're taking a look at the replay here. Battle for the lead between our 2 points, top points contenders there. And a smooth pass.
Yeah, Tom Bourne was able to scoot on by. We go back to live scenes. He has choked. Caution flag is in the air, and we're hearing that it's Bob Giaquinto in the number 23 that has looped it out of turn number 4. Doesn't look like there's any damage on the number 23 machine, but Garrett, let's see if we can go back and see exactly what happened here. We saw a wiggle out of the back end of that Dodge just 1 lap prior, and whoa, that is quite the wiggle again out of turn number 4. As, comes up the racetrack. Almost making contact with Jason Schue. But luckily, no damage.
No damage there. Great job by Bob keeping that car clean. Bob's been one of these guys that has picked up speed as the season's gone on, but it seems like so far it was practice in qualifying speed, and this little incident here, this twin ring Motegi is giving him all sorts of trouble.
Now, let's see if we can get maybe one more look on the tabletop trio machine, following right behind Matt Muir. There was that side-by-side battle that we were just focusing on a second ago before we saw that replay of Tom Bourne getting to the race lead. But Bob, able to keep it off the wall. That's the good news. Bad news is those tires are going to be a little bit wounded here. Well, let's go to kind of live scenes and see the field behind the iRacing.com pace car. We'll see if iRacing, if the pace car lights turn off here momentarily, and maybe we can get a quick word with Bob and get kind of his point of view in that little spin that he just had. If the pace car light, we got some takers on pit road here. This isn't, maybe not a significant number, but Bronson Stafford, Bill Edwards, Matt Muir comes in, Robert Tripp, Jason Schue, and Bob Giaquinto. A bit surprising here, Garrett. That's more takers on pit road than I was expecting here on lap number 6.
Peter, is it to try to get to the second stage break if things go their way? Maybe I just add an extra amount of fuel. I would think might help them. If Mike said 35 laps. If they think with some yellows they could maybe get into the 40s. And I don't know, Peter. It's kind of a little bit head scratching for me, but we see some championship contenders pulling down pit road, so there must be some sort of strategy to it.
The only thing I could think of, and this is a strategy, I'm just a bit surprised, is maybe try and keep some fuel in the car to kind of keep it handling well. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see if we can bring in Bob Giaquinto though. Bob, Peter Short 3YTV booth, you got a copy? I'll try it one more time. Bob Giaquinto, Peter Short 3YTV booth, you got a copy?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Bob. A little bit of a spin off of turn number 4. Garrett was mentioning that these cars seem a little bit free up off the corner. What happened there with that number 23?
Yeah, I just got real loose coming out of 4 there. A lot of power on a flat exit, just doesn't like my driving style. So got loose and spun her around.
Bob, let me chime in here real quick. He showed that replay of you spinning at least 3 times. I think we knew what happened after 2. He did the third one on a spite.
I mean, in fairness, it was impressive. I was impressed that I didn't hit anything, so I'll take it.
Well, what do you think about your chances here in the 23, Bob? You got some speed in that thing?
No, not at all.
Well, I think the main reason, though, Garrett, that we had to pull Bob into the booth is we need our weekly update. Where is the bathroom?
Allegedly, they'll be maybe, possibly, hopefully coming tomorrow to take a look at things. So, your guess is as good as mine.
Do you need to show him it 3 times like I had to show the replay of you spinning?
You know, I we might have to.
Okay, well, hopefully it all works out. Hopefully you can get that new bathroom sorted out, but we'll probably be bringing you up into the booth next season from the rate that bathroom's getting done, it seems like. But we'll let you go, Bob. Good luck here on this restart.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, well, like I said, Bob, get back to the action because we expect the iRacing.com pace car to make its way onto pit road here. We'll go green once again on lap number 8 here in the Japan Showdown 150. Tom Bourne is your race leader. Alongside him, Chuck Sweeting, Philip Scott, and Mike Tellier on the second row for this restart. Green flag back in the air. Good restart by that number 16. And here comes the number 99 underneath Chuck Sweeting. G.
Yeah, these restarts, Peter, are a great time to gain yourself some track position, and especially when you're an aggressive race car driver like Philip Scott. Take advantage of that bottom lane. You got the luck of the draw there. There's no real choose rule here in iRacing yet, Peter. Well, I expect to see that sometime soon, that they could figure that out. But Philip Scott up to P2 and see if he has anything for that 16. I think we're looking at the typical Chuck Sweeting strategy, though, in third place, Peter. He's not going to use this stuff up, and if this thing stays green, I expect him to make his way back towards that lead.
Yeah, but we've also seen how important clean air can be, and currently Tom Bourne has the clean air on the nose of his Ford. Meanwhile, back behind him, here comes Giaquinto looking underneath Buchwald. Will take the 11th spot back. We saw Matt Muir battling just in front of them just a moment ago. Meanwhile, 2 cars up the road, Bronson Stafford, remember, came down pit road under this last caution. He is the highest placed drivers of the ones to come down onto pit lane, running right now in the 8th spot, 5 spots below where he was at the drop of the green flag, trying to make another one of those up, though, with a look underneath the 28 of Dumas. Garrett, that was impressive. Right kind of late in the corner, Dumas started drifting up the track. Buchwald was, not Buchwald. The other Canadian driver, Bronson Stafford, was able to kind of hook that white line and really get a strong drive out of turn number 4, but Dumas isn't backing down in the 28 on the high line. Maybe a little bit of a wiggle out of those 2 cars. I think that wiggle, though, was enough for Dumas to lose momentum. He will slide back to 8th, Stafford back to 7th.
Yeah, it was a good pass there, Peter. I was curious to see if the 28 was going to be able to hang on the outside. Looks like he got a little bit loose under the throttle, which is going to be the name of the game here at Twin Ring Motegi. Taking a look on board here of the Hugger Oranges machine of Matt Muir, as it looks like that was Bronson into the wall maybe just a little bit, and Jamar's underneath, so that battle's not over. This battle here between Bill Edwards and Matt Muir is also well underway, Peter. These guys are out there fighting. I mean, only 11 laps into this thing, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah, they know that the season is coming to an end next week. There's the number 61 coming back. We saw a lot of connection issues last week, Garrett, on the number 61 of Bronson Stafford. Now, they were on a road course, so it wasn't too crazy. You know, he was kind of all by his lonesome for a good majority of the race, but here tonight, he's going to have to put up with that connection issue, maybe a little bit worse at Twin Ring Motegi than it was at Watkins Glen, just due to proximity of yourself to the other cars. So we'll keep our eyes on that as the night unfolds. Here is the Talking Giant 64 washing up the racetrack, run a little bit higher through turn number 3 and 4. Stafford's going to get underneath him, and Stafford should have a good run going off into turn number 1, see if he can hug that white line. Made the pass out of turn number 2 on Jamar Dumas about 2 laps ago. I think, Garrett, he'll make that pass again to move himself up into 6th.
Yeah, up to 6 for the 61 of Bronson Stafford, but got to give a shout out to Vincent Valvano running up. He was up near the top 5 there. First race back from a little bit of an illness he was having, and it's just great to have Vinny back on a victory Monday for the New York Giants. It doesn't matter if it's ugly. It doesn't matter if it's against Washington. It's nice to win now and then. And we probably won't win many more times this year, although we have the Jets this week. So Talking Giants was a victory podcast this Monday, and I'd like to see Vinny in victory lane if today's going to keep going my way.
Yeah, I mean, you have to win a game once in a while, unless you're the Detroit Lions in that dreadful season that they had. But you know what? The Giants in the W column. I can't say the same about the Cowboys. They didn't play this past weekend. It was a bye week for the Cowboys. But there is a game going on right now. Who's playing tonight here, G?
Well, we got the Niners and the Vikings. Both teams turned it over on their first possession. The Niners had
good start.
Niners had an interception, and then Christian McCaffrey fumbled in the red zone. So now the Vikings have the ball at midfield, Peter. According to my calculations, I'll let you know if anything exciting happens.
All right. Well, I'll put it on, and we'll give everyone the details so you can stay up on the 5-1 49ers playing the 2-4 Vikings. I'd gotta say, not the most enthralling game, and unfortunately, no Taylor Swift to boot. So that probably makes it less exciting. Here's Jonathan Gaston, Mr. Gaston, as we know him. He's in the 5th spot, one of our championship chase drivers. Looks like he's going to lose that spot to Bronson Stafford, as I think Gaston might have caught the wall a little bit, scrubbed some speed in his Chevy Impala. So he will move back into 6th. Stafford back up to the top 5 as he continues his charge through the field after the pit stop that he made under the one and only caution flag that we have had so far here tonight. This is definitely the best battle on the racetrack, though. Bronson Stafford, Gaston, Dumas, Valvano, kind of all separated, and Bill Edwards back there, all separated by about a second. The battle for the race lead is not much of a battle right now. Philip Scott about 1.2 seconds behind Tom Bourne, 1.6 seconds from Bourne back to Sweeting, then another 1.2 back to Tellier, and then another 1.2 seconds back to this gaggle. So we'll keep our eyes on this as we move towards that stage break. No caution, of course, rolling stages here that we expect to see on lap number 25, and it looks like Tom Bourne, at least for right now, G, would be picking up a couple of points. Comes into tonight 7 points behind Chuck. Whoa! Car around, it's Valvano, the number 64. And Bob Giaquinto almost getting involved. Second time tonight, Bob's had problems out of turn number 4, but I see a little bit of right front damage. Not sure if that was from that incident. We'll go back and see if we can sort it all out here on this 3Y TV replay.
Yeah, this is a tough break, Peter, for the 64. Let's take a look here.
Let's actually go back a little bit further. This did not bring out a caution flag. This was about 3 laps prior to the caution flag coming out. Robert Tripp nosed it into the wall hard off of turn number 4, but there was no cars around him, so no caution flag came out. Now this is what happened to Vinny in the Talkin' Giants. Ford comes down the racetrack. The number 5 of Edwards was there. One of our chase drivers, Matt Muir, I think might have got a piece of it. Let's see if we can get another look at that, maybe from the blimp cam, see if there was any contact that was made. The 64 starts coming down the racetrack. The 5 had just got his nose underneath. They make contact. Muir, just doing a good job getting around it. Let's see if we can see what happened to Bob. Let's go on board with the number 23 machine. There's the spinning 64. He gets on the brakes. Definite contact there. That's where that right front damage came from. So the tabletop trio, number 23, already not having the most swell night. It goes a little bit further south as we are working caution number 2 here tonight on lap number 19. Garrett, I can't remember what the rule is. Is it within 5 laps of a stage that it counts or not? I can't recall off the top of my head. You would know these types of things.
Yeah, I would know, Peter. I'm a little bit away from it nowadays, but yes, it is within 5 laps. I'm going to guess these guys are going to go back green for the stage. I don't think Mike is going to call that. I mean, I would certainly allow him to make that decision and stick with it, but looks based on these guys staying out on the racetrack that they will go green to the end of the stage at 25.
And of course, no stage caution, so when we go back green, we will just stay green flag, and that definitely adds a little bit of excitement to the mix. One thing to note is we heard Tellier say, about 35 laps, G? So we're not in that window where we can make it the rest of the way on just 2 more stops. You'd have to go about another 10 laps or so to get into that window. So I think that's also probably part of the logic of why some of these drivers are kind of staying out. We are getting caution flags here tonight as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of green flag races so far this season in the Total Nonstop Racing League, but 2 cautions inside the opening 20 laps. That might change the strategy a little bit, G, if you can kind of rely on another caution coming out. But we know these drivers here in TNR are fast, they're good, and maybe they can clean things up all the way to the end. I don't know. We'll have to see how it all shakes out here on the channel. Let's see if we can go to the 3-Wide TV chat, see if we got anyone hanging out. We got Sienna Taylor in the chat, Nicholas Marple as well. How are you both doing here tonight? The Windsor's rooting on Bill Edwards. I'm not sure if Bill got any damage from that particular accident. Let's see if we can see that Silent Syndicate racing machine. Let's actually look back out of Jonathan Gaston's number 72. Not seeing any significant damage on the front of the number 5G from that contact with Bob Giaquinto. Bob also, not Bob Giaquinto, but Vincent Valvano. Valvano in the number 64, also not really seeing any damage on the Ford. That's good news. I think out of all that kerfuffle, Bob ended up with the most damage on that Dodge, but it looks like they were able to pull out the fender, so we might be all good to go back green here on lap number 22 or so. We'll see. Pace car lights continue to twinkle. I think that's because the 35 of Robert Tripp G came down onto pit road after that heavy contact with the inside wall, got that damage repaired. He's being scored 3 laps down, although was the lucky dog under this caution, I believe.
Well, if you're Robert Tripp, you don't give up. You might be able to sneak another lucky dog or 2. You get to the point where you're only 1 lap down, you feel pretty good about getting back in the lead lap. So you have some early misfortune. There's plenty of laps left, and you said, Pierre, these guys at TNR, they're skilled, they race clean, but this track seems to be giving them a little more of trouble than I certainly expected from talking to these guys before the race. So I don't know if track conditions changed at all, or if these guys just in race settings are just right on edge, giving it everything they have, which I certainly believe. So we'll see if they can clean it up, but if not, I guess we'll see how many lucky dogs Robert Tripp gets. But I can't wait to go back green here and see what these guys have with a mad dash to the stage break. Well, the rolling stage break. It's like I'm rusty. I got to get in the game here, Peter. We are a race away from our season finale. Get it together, Gleason. I don't have the bathroom problems that Bob has. I'm not clogged up over here, Peter. I should know better and do better.
I'll tell you who's doing all right, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings scored. They now lead the San Francisco 49ers 7-0 as they have about 5 minutes left in the first quarter out there in Minnesota. I think the U.S. Bank Stadium, isn't it technically in, I think it's in Minneapolis side of the Minneapolis-St. Paul's Twin Cities, if I recall correctly. But that's where they're playing here tonight. We're also going to be playing here on the racetrack with that mad dash you were talking about, G. Just 3 laps to decide the stage winner. And they're on the loud pedal. Ooh, Chuck Sweeting did not get going in the number 75 machine. Tom Bourne did a good job of getting going. But look at the number 47 of Mike Floppy Tellier. He did a great job. He was able to hold with Chuck Sweeting until the entry of turn number 1. Then he backed off of it. Now Philip Scott on the outside. Here comes Sweeting looking underneath the number 99 as they race down the backstretch. Sweeting to the inside, Scott to the outside line. Will Sweeting be able to pull off this move? Remember, Garrett, under the last restart, Scott was able to get around Sweeting. Sweeting has more to play for here. He has those bonus points inside the stage points. He's going to complete that pass. Going to try and set his sights on the race leader with just 2 laps until the rolling stage.
All these guys are battling, and you're Philip Scott. You hate this. You might lose another spot here to the 47. You're seeing that championship lead of Chuck Sweeting grow from you. And same thing, Tom Bourne looking out his rearview mirror. He knows he's gaining 1 point on Chuck Sweeting as they run. Just needs to hold him off for 2 more laps. And these guys are out there, Peter, just side by side, giving it all they have. You think this would be the finish of the race, the way these guys are running, but it's championship time. They know these points matter, and you don't want to be stuck not holding the trophy because you missed out on 1 point here at Twin Ring with Teggy.
Yeah, it will all go down to the wire next week right here on 3Y TV. Philip Scott throwing some sparks on the right-hand side of his Dodge. You're riding on board with Bronson Stafford. You're not missing anything in the battle for the race lead as Chuck Sweeting not quite able to close in enough to challenge. Oh, he's using every bit of the racetrack, though, out of turn number 2, almost catching the wall. I think he was able to just barely stay off of the red and white Honda wall here. Coming out of turn number 4 to win the stage will be Tom Bourne. He will close in 1 extra point on Chuck Sweeting. So it is now down to 6 points between our top 2 drivers as they run here. Ooh, Garrett, there is it's going to be tight going into Homestead next week.
Yeah, Peter, and we have some fun stuff in store for how that race is going to be structured. So these guys are they're not going to be able to rest. Let's just say that when they head to Homestead next week. I think you go from a very racy track to another very racy track that everybody's kind of familiar with. People love racing on Homestead, and as long as I don't give them the 85-mile-an-hour winds again, Peter, I think they're going to put on an even better show at that track, and I don't expect them to give an inch, especially if this championship continues to be as tight as it is.
Why, you don't want a hurricane to hit South Florida while we race? I mean, that sounds like it'd be a heck of a lot of fun. Meanwhile, a little bit further back in the field, Bob, is racing Matt Muir, the number 77 Hugger Orange's Chevrolet. Just been a little bit off on the pace charts here tonight. We've seen some really strong runs out of Muir. I know he's still learning the ovals here in the iRacing.com Motorsport Simulator, and this is one of the ovals that just does not get used very often, so you kind of have to excuse the pace. This might be the first time Muir's ever run here, and just kind of feeling it out. Still inside the top 10, so still putting together a pretty solid run as the number 77 finds himself between Vincent Valvano and Bob Giaquinto back there in the background. Go back up towards the front half of the field. Chuck Sweeting's lost a little bit of ground to Tom Bourne, back to about 3/4 of a second between the top 2. And I've been impressed with Tellier here, Garrett. We've seen some good runs out of the Timmy's machine this season. We've seen some, well, not so good runs out of the Timmy's machine. But here tonight, kind of putting it all together in the 3rd spot. Yet to pit here tonight. Bronson Stafford back behind him. Pitted under our first caution flag. But yeah, I'm impressed by these 2 Canadians running in 3rd and 4th.
I'm really impressed with the run Mike's having. I talked to him before the race, like I said, and I jokingly said as we were parting ways, I'll talk to you later in victory lane. And 3rd place running so far. The 47 has some speed. He's looking really strong, and maybe a break or 2 goes his way, and that will become a reality. But he's had a couple good seasons in a row. Mike is winning races again. I think he's having fun again, which is always the thing. We'd always like talk to each other and say, Mike, if we're not having fun anymore, let's stop doing this. But he's having fun. He's winning races, and he's doing a great job being our on-track administrator. So I don't know if he's going to be able to hold on to this 3rd position much longer. This Bronson Stafford with that little bit of a differing pit strategy. And Peter, these guys who have pitted and topped off, I'm wondering if that is going to be the break that somebody needs to be a wild card in this thing, that they're going to get a caution maybe at the right time here, catch guys a lap down or what have you, and maybe make a play for this thing. That is something that we haven't seen this season. Somebody just out of nowhere catching a break like that. So let's keep an eye on these guys. They're closing in on pit stops within the next 10 laps or so.
Whoa, Garrett. The number 47 of Mike Tellier almost binned it off of turn number 2 that last time. Let's even go see what happened. We're just talking up Mike Tellier, saying he's putting together such a solid run, and then he almost lost control of it. Let's see. Number 47 comes out of the corner, gets all types of sideways. Good save there. Good snap save from the number 47, just able to snap the car back into kind of the right attitude, and he's going to lose a couple of spots, but back live. Let's see if it happens again out of turn number 2 this time. No, able to keep it nice and smooth, but he will slide back into 5th. Didn't lose a lot of track time, but did lose a little bit of track position. Hopefully Tellier can rebound from that. Let's go check out the chat. Chat's been fairly active here tonight. Sienna in the chat saying that Mr. Gaston brought out the simulator, brought an Xbox with racing video games, virtual racing, other computer setup to school. That is so cool. That is awesome. Garrett is, Jamar Doom is able to sneak on by Tellier. That was a tight pass, just appearing kind of out of nowhere there on the left-hand side of the screen. But Garrett chiming in that we've been doing this forever. That's what it feels like. I was telling someone today at work that, I've been doing this since I was a kid, and I've had the privilege to race on the same racetrack virtually with NASCAR driver. Oh, Tellier! Wow! Another big save from him. Definitely that backhand starting to get a little bit sideways more often as this run goes on. But I've had the privilege to race with NASCAR drivers. I've had the privilege to race with Formula One drivers, IndyCar drivers. I mean, how cool is that? That you can say that you've been out there on the same racetrack as some of those guys, even virtually. So it's a fun hobby. It's there's more expensive hobbies out there. We'll just put it that way. As I think, I thought maybe Bronson Stafford might have been taking a hard turn down onto pit road. As Garrett, we are close to that window when we would expect to start to see some of these drivers on pit road. Talking about 35 to 40 laps, kind of in a fuel run. We're right there. We're on lap number 35. We did have a couple of cautions, though. So maybe these drivers can stretch it to lap number 40 before they can really, before they really have to come down pit road. But for right now, none of our top 4 drivers, none of the top 3, I should say, have made a pit stop here tonight. Tom Bourne, Chuck Sweeting, and Philip Scott all still out there on the racetrack. We'll see them on pit road shortly, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think so, Peter. These guys, they're getting into their window. It's going to be really close here if they could even make it to lap 40, I would think, but we've been wrong before. But the people who have topped off, Peter, if they can make it to lap 50, and I don't know if that's possible, I'm just throwing it out there, the points that could be gained if these other guys all are on pit road, that could be a game changer. If you get 8 points and your competitor gets 0, I mean, you don't need to be a genius to do that math. I mean, you don't need Mr. Gaston as your teacher to realize that's a good thing. So I'm keeping an eye on who's the first to pit road, and I'm also keeping an eye on those guys who have topped off and see how many laps they have in the tank. I think it was about lap 6 or something, Peter. So if we're doing math, maybe with the yellows, they should be in the high 40s somewhere. And we'll see. We'll see if anybody's going to just risk it. What do you have to lose if you're some of these guys further back in the pack? But Valvano's on pit road, Peter?
Yeah, so Vincent Valvano, the number 64, does come down pit road. Remember, was involved in that accident just a little while ago. So he was probably needing some fresh tires on the number 64. Matt Muir in the number 77, he's needed some fresh tires. He's actually slid back a little bit. He has dropped outside of the top 10, down into 12th. That's even with Valvano's pit stop. So let's keep our eye on the Hugger Orange's Chevrolet, as he does not seem like he's got all 4 tires underneath him completely, as he was sideways coming up the racetrack. Out of that corner, there is Vincent Valvano returning to the mix. Let's see if our race leader, though, Tom Bourne, can make it another lap in the Ash Fire Extinguishers Ford Fusion, coming through the corner. He's off the pace. He's coming down onto pit road, so he will blink first here, as looks like Philip Scott with a good pit road entry in his Dodge, able to pick up some time. There at the top of your screen, you see Mike Floppy Tellier and Jonathan Gaston in the number 72. So 4 drivers on pit road as we speak. Let's see if Chuck Sweeting in the number 75, he's coming down the backstretch. Let's see if he elects to come down pit road this time. I have to say, Garrett, if I recall, this racetrack has kind of an interesting pit road with the pit road speed that you kind of come down. Let's see if, yep, looks like a late lunge onto pit road for the number 75. There's Sweeting. Whew. He might have been a little bit fast there getting on pit road. You see that pit road speed at 50. He was kind of at 53 when he hit the mark. Garrett, we'll have to see whether or not Sweeting gets a speeding penalty here. He definitely was flirting with it. We'll put it that way.
He certainly was flirting with it. Another thing he was flirting with, Peter, if he hit those brakes any harder, he was flirting with that wall or that the barrier there. So hopefully for Chuck Sweeting, he does not get a pit road penalty. We've seen him get one to take him out of contention in the past. And I think if I remember correctly in that race, he actually almost made it all the way back, but the penalty was the difference. So we'll see Chuck not being held for speeding, it looks like, Peter, and he's off and away.
Yeah, down and away. Here comes Bronson Stafford on pit road. You can see their pit lane time there at the bottom of your screen. Matt Muir also coming onto pit road there up at the top of the picture, although now out of the picture. Bronson's still struggling with some of those connection woes that he's been having here tonight. There's Muir coming down. Looks like, I was about to say Bronson Stafford is on pit road. Well, yeah, we know he's on pit road. It's just the graphic. They're kind of fighting with the fact that he's been having those connection problems. But that's going to hand the race lead, at least for right now, to Jamar Dumas. Dumas did pit, Garrett, before the stage break. He pitted on lap number 21, so if things were kind of to go his way, maybe he could get a little lucky with a caution flag. But look at Philip Scott, biggest gainer on pit road in that number 99 machine. Pitted on lap number 38. He gained quite a bit of time on Tom Bourne in front of him. The gap between Bourne and Scott is just about a second. So good job by Philip Scott to pick up probably about a second or so, which was all in that pit road entry. Did a great job.
Yeah, we expect that from Philip Scott, Peter. He's aggressive, and when it comes to getting the pit road, he's one of the best at making up time. And obviously, we've seen him make that mistake and have a speeding penalty, but when you're on edge and doing that, I think you have to go for it, especially when you're fourth in points and you need to make up some ground on these guys. Be aggressive. Well, you don't have as much to lose as you have to gain.
Bill Edwards now blinks. He comes down pit road to make his second pit stop of the night here on lap number 43. So Bill will be down and away shortly. There he goes. 14.2 second pit stop by his pit crew. A pit lane time of 48.433 seconds. A pretty long pit lane time for him. Jamar Dumas, though, still continues to circle the racetrack. Jason Schue also pitted on lap number 21. Brandon Buchwald, Bob Giaquinto pitted on lap number 19 here tonight. Those two drivers running third and fourth. And then that's when you have about an 18.5 second gap to this man right here, Tom Bourne, in his Ford Fusion. We'll see how the pit strategies play out here tonight, but we do know that at least, the very least, the top four drivers have to make 2 more pit stops before the end of tonight's race. Well, Garrett, I was looking down at the football game momentarily a little while ago, and I think the 49ers had made it into the red zone, or maybe not the red zone, but they had made it pretty far down the field, and then all of a sudden, I see that the Vikings had the ball back. So the Vikings up 7-zip and moving the ball right around midfield, and that's a good shot right over the middle. Whoever that is, number 87, looks like a tight end. I don't know.
TJ Hawkinson, Peter, and big Michigan fan I am, and Jake Moody is the 49ers kicker. They drafted him high in the draft, and he's been missing field goals the last couple of weeks, so that's why the Vikings have the ball, and they are actually looking pretty good for a team that there was talk that Kirk Cousins was going to be on the trade block, didn't want to waive his no-trade clause. Now they're taking it to this 5-1 Niners team, but still anybody's game. We got a lot of time left here, but so far so good for the Purple People Eaters.
I was going to say that, the one thing that's nice about the NFL is you can turn up every week, and you really, you're going to have a favorite, but in the NFL, upsets happen quite a bit. It's not like college football where, I don't know, upsets happen in college football. They're just a little bit rarer, let's be honest. I mean, you're going to get one a given week, but in the NFL, Garrett, you're a betting man, and you've been on the bad end of the betting stick, I'm sure, more than once, especially betting on NFL games, because they're pretty unpredictable. I mean, you got the 5-1 49ers who probably have, I don't know what's the over under in the game, Gary. You'd probably know. I bet you it's 49ers by what, about 9 tonight.
It was 7. It was about 7. Yeah, they're favored by about 7. I think the actual over under was something like 47 points or something like that.
So I mean, 47 and favorite by 7 for the 49ers,
Yeah,
and
44. Excuse me.
they're looking at possibly being down 14 love here as the Vikings are moving. But I'm gonna relate this back to TNR because Jamar Dumas is leading this race right now. I mean, if things go his way, Dumas could be looking at a win here tonight. And wouldn't that be a bit of a surprise? He's not one of our chase drivers. Been put together a pretty solid season. Had some good runs. But for right now, Jamar Dumas out front of this race and closing in on a stage win. Garrett, that would be pretty impressive if he's able to hold on to this. But possibly even more interesting is that Tom Boren at this moment in time would cut off another 2 points on Chuck Sweeting's point advantage. So that would put Chuck now at only a 5-point advantage in the number 75 machine. But how about that? A stage win by Jamar Dumas would be pretty impressive.
Not as impressive as the double pass that the Vikings just did. No, absolutely more impressive. Jamar Dumas needs good luck. Jamar is a very talented race car driver, and he has some of the worst luck I have ever seen. And this stage win here coming up on it would just be finally a step, I think, in the right direction of just... And yeah, strategy's involved, Peter. I mean, we'll all say that strategy's involved. But for these guys who are going to get these stage points, do they really care? I mean, it's something. Like, hey, stage wins don't come easy. And if you're Jamar Dumas, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And maybe this is finally the momentum you need to, like you said, maybe he is on the right strategy. Maybe he can pull this off in a different way than these other guys and end up with a win. And wow, what a story that would be.
So Dumas comes around at the halfway mark, cross flags in the air for the number 28 as our race leader. Jason Schue in second, Bob Giaquinto third, and then you finally find Tom Bourne. Brandon Bookwald making his way on to pit road at the halfway distance. So 75 miles in the books, 75 miles left to go here in tonight's Japanese Showdown. 150 in the total non-stop racing league. Let's see if we can bring up the best time graphic up at the top of your screen. Honestly, not seeing a significant amount of fall off here tonight, Garrett. On the order of about a 1.5 seconds per lap. Dumas is running a 38.45 last time by. Best lap that he's run tonight, 36.94. So about a 1.5 seconds over a long run. I've seen more drastic fall off. We'll just put it that way. As the number 16 machine able to put a pass on Bob Giaquinto, so move Tom Board now back up onto the podium. Still 20 seconds behind Dumas, though, which is interesting, Garrett. I'm pondering that. I think Bourne was maybe a little bit closer to Dumas at one point. Maybe not. Maybe I'm getting things kind of back to front. But speaking of Dumas, finally, we do see that the number 28 is on pit road to make his stop here under green flag conditions. That will cycle things on through, as looks like the Vikings are 3 yards out from scoring another touchdown. But that will hand the race lead over to Jason Schue in the GM Goodwrench Service Plus Chevy Monte Carlo. As Schue takes his turn up at the front of the field, Tom Bourne now up into second with Dumas making that green flag pit stop. Dumas now slides back to 10th in the running order, but a good job by him. Just checking to see if there was any pit road speeding penalties that last time. Not seeing anything. That's the good news. So everyone's been cleared of any penalties, which is a bit surprising with how tricky this pit road is to get onto.
Yeah, good job by everyone, Peter. And I don't want to talk about pit entry, but I got to give a shout out to Schue here. Different strategy. He's just out there. He's leading some laps, having a good time. And I hear his voice in my head right now, Peter, saying, if I could just get a caution, in the way that Jason says that every time we're on a different strategy, it makes me laugh. We think of it all at the same time. We could just never catch that lucky break as field fillers towards the back of the pack. And hey, Jason, if this was the old days where NASCAR paid $500 for leading a lap, you'd be raking it in right now and getting that sponsorship feedback. So Good job, buddy.
So Jason Schue out front, 3.5 seconds back to Tom Bourne as they run right now, working lap number 55. Let's go back to Chuck Sweeting and Philip Scott. Garrett, this is a battle for position between these two. Chuck is on slightly fresher tires, 1 lap fresher tires to be exact, so we expect him to have maybe a little bit of an advantage here. We also know that he's really good on the long run at saving tires, but catching him is one thing, passing him is another. Because this racetrack has been pretty racy here tonight, so that's good for Chuck. Problem is he's got a lot of dirty air on the nose.
Dirty air on the nose, Peter. Race car driver's worst, well, not worst enemy, but pretty high up there. I mean, especially when you're trying to make good lap times, and it seems like these guys are all running fairly similar lines to an extent, at least the fast guys. So this lack of fresh air is hurting Chuck's ability to make any ground on this 99. Look at a little bit of a wiggle out of the 99, see if Chuck can take advantage, but it looks like Philip's going to diamond this corner out. Well, not as much as I expected, but he kept his momentum going and keeps his foot in the throttle, and we see how loose that race car gets on exit. You guys that are in the racing club and Mr. Gaston's class, I mean, you'll learn throttle control and putting the gas down, and you have somebody like Mr. Gaston teaching you. I had you, Peter, teaching me, even though you were probably one of the, I think you're certainly younger than me, but you were always the best.
I was not the best. Well, I'll tell you what. I got smoked by several people here in the TNR, old days of TNR. I remember going to, I think it was Sonoma, and a certain John Gregorio. And if you've been around sim racing for many years, you'll know John Gregorio's name. One of the best in the business in sim racing. And Justin Brooks. I remember getting smoked by that guy back in the day. And what's crazy is, as looks like Chuck Sweeting with a run to the outside of the number 99 machine here. That's going to be interesting if he can make the high line pass work. Haven't really seen that in action. Looks like he's able to sweep around that outside line. I think he's going to complete the pass. Wow, that's impressive. Chuck finding a little bit of pace up there. I wonder if Chuck maybe found a new line to run. We'll see if we see Chuck kind of meandering around the racetrack a little bit more, trying to find some grip. Just going to drop to the... I was going to say drop to that inside line. He's running a little bit higher up the track, but now back up into second. But going back to my point, I was going to say that I think of all the drivers in iRacing, I remember you used to be able to look this up. I don't know if you still can. I'm trying to see whether or not you can. But you were able to look up kind of the top drivers in iRacing, and it was wild because I think that Justin Brooks now has in the top 30 or top 40 of all iRatings. It's kind of madness that we used to race against him at one point. He's actually, believe it or not, Garrett, if you were to find out the chronology of my iRacing account, my iRacing account started as Lawrence Brooks number 10 because Justin Brooks bought iRacing for me, bought 3 months of iRacing for me back in the day on his grandfather's credit card.
Wow.
So I have like Lawrence Brooks 10 somewhere probably on the iRacing. If they were to look at my account, you would find that. Yeah, my account was originally bought by Justin Brooks on a 3-month type thing, and pretty wild. But nonetheless, out there on the racetrack, Tom Bourne in the number 16 is our race leader. Chuck Sweeting has been able to get up into second, so we eventually did see Jason Schue make a pit stop. He's now being scored 1 lap down in 12th. But now we'll find out whether or not Chuck can run down Tom in these handful of laps before the next round of green flag pit stops. We're probably about 5 to 10 laps away from when we expect to see the leaders come down pit road for what could be the final time tonight.
Yep, here I'm looking forward to these pit stops. Looks like some cloud cover on the track as well, unless maybe I'm just getting old and it's getting late. But here, you're just talking about Justin Brooks. I still friends with him on Facebook. I see a lot of his graphic designs. I know he was doing the racing thing for JTG racing on the EA Sports or NASCAR game side of things. And I'm just thinking, Peter, all the great drivers we've had in TNR. Like you mentioned John's name. I was just thinking of DK, David Krikorian, Jake Williams, all those old school guys, Kurt. And I think before our next season, Peter, I'm going to ask all of us old school TNR guys, Jason Gracias and all of us, to reach out to some of these old names, blast from the past, and see if we could, like I did when we started getting this thing back for iRacing, reach out and say, hey, what are you doing on January, whatever? Why don't you come one time at least, come race with us at TNR again? I think it'd be pretty cool to have some of those names as a blast from the past with you and I in the booth calling the action.
Yeah, I know Justin would probably put a number on the field. He's just so fast, and in iRacing, been honing his craft for many years at this point, day in and day out. But speaking of honing his craft day in and day out, Chuck Sweeting starting to make some inroads on Tom Bourne. Let's see if we can bring up kind of the lap time graphic between these two. As you can see, Sweeting's been been chucking off about 2 or so tenths of a second per lap until that last lap. That's what Chuck does. He chucks off time on you when you're leading and he's in second, especially on these long green flag runs. Chuck, one of the best in the business. And doing so, you see he's also pulling away from Philip Scott back behind him. And like we kind of highlighted there, Garrett, running a little bit higher on the racetrack than some of these other cars he's been racing around.
Nothing that Chuck does surprises me, Peter. And if anyone was going to find that little bit of an advantage, that extra speed, it was going to be Chuck. And I know I believe we talked to him after last week's race and about racing here and not having many laps, and then he kind of figured it out as he went along. And it looks like he's figured it out just a little bit quicker than everyone else has, and he's using it to his advantage with his tire saving and green flag run strategy. But Peter, you've talked about how close he was, we think, on a pit road penalty that first time. It might happen again where he pushes that limit and makes a mistake and takes himself out of contention. I don't expect it, but I think we'll be keeping an eye on it as these pit stops close in.
Yeah, who will blink first down onto pit road? It was Tom Bourne under that last green flag round of pit stops. Let's see if Chuck Sweeting maybe tries the undercut as he gets a good run out of turn number 2. Able to close in on the back of that Ford in front of him. Also been able to put about 2 seconds between himself and Philip Scott out back. That's going to be a little bit of comfort as we move in towards the next round of green flag pit stops. And here we go. This is going to be the battle for the race lead. Chuck Sweeting there, Garrett, picked up probably about 0.3 of a second in one fell swoop through turns number 3 and 4. That was a really good corner for the number 75.
Peter, I did not think anyone had much for the 16 the way this race was going, especially with the run the way we're having it. But Chuck's found that speed. He has the talent. He saves his tires, and he's definitely there. He has the faster car. Will he be able to make this pass? And like we talked about, we're coming up on pit stops. You want to get this track position, maybe set the pace for a little bit, and maybe let the 16 dictate the pit strategy, and then you can just kind of follow suit as the leader as he takes a look underneath. But 16 has just too much momentum on the outside. I think he'll try again here in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, Chuck is definitely driving the racetrack a little bit differently. That's what you have to do when you're trying to get some clean air on the nose. You don't want to be tucked up right behind the car in front of you, because if that happens, you're going to wash up the racetrack. Here's Chuck again, getting a strong run up the corner. He might have had to check up maybe a little bit, just back off the throttle to avoid running right into the back of the number 16. Again, he backs up his corner a little bit, rolls through the center of the corner, then watch. He tries to square up the exit of the corner to get the power down early. You see the 16 with a wiggle there, 75 with a wiggle himself. Our leaders are doing everything they can. You see a couple of drivers coming off the pit lane there. That was Vincent Valvano there on your left-hand side of your screen, pitting just around lap number 69 here tonight. Here comes Sweeting again with a strong run up off the corner, just not quite able to get to the inside of number 16. Is he there? Looks like he's there. We're side by side for the lead here on lap number 70 tonight.
Side by side, two of the best, two of our points contenders, championship contenders, and Chuck's going to take the lead as the 16 dives on the pit road. We'll see if at least one lap short pitting does the 16 any advantage. We saw how close they were running on the track. We'll see now if pit road makes the difference into Tom getting the gap he needs to pull away from Chuck, or Chuck being able to stretch this lead out even more.
So with Tom Bourne on pit road, will that bring the number 75 onto pit lane this time? We will find out. Usually, race car drivers are pretty reactive when something like that happens. The 16 there did a great job of kind of coming onto pit road. Looks like Sweeting stays out for another lap here. Bit of a surprise in my book, as Bourne is down and away. Philip Scott also down and away in the number 99. In fact, I think Philip again closing in on Bourne, as the number 16 is going to have to hustle it here on the flat portion of the racetrack, the apron. You have to stay on that apron until you pass a blue cone. There's the cone right there, so he can blend up onto the racetrack. He does so immediately. Good job hustling that Ford Fusion off of pit road. Now will Chuck Sweeting make the hard left turn to see his pit crew. He's a little bit lower on the racetrack this time. He does so. Blends off the racetrack and, whoa, gets it down. I think just barely gets it down to the pit lane speed. Good job there, Chuck. Mike Tellier on pit road in the Tim Hortons machine. Jamar Dumas in the 28 also on pit road. That's a bit of a surprise, Garrett. I know Dumas was kind of running long in that last run. In fact, he was the leader at the halfway mark. So 2 pit stops in quick succession for this Ford. Kind of expected him to run a little bit longer in the run, but did not. As Brandon Buchwald, the Canadian driver, goes to the point here, has yet to make his pit stop. But that, I think, actually will pretty much cycle us on through, as here comes Chuck Sweeting. Where's Tom Bourne? There's Bourne. Bourne in the number 16, 2-lap older tires. He will be able to get out in front of Sweeting. Also, Philip Scott also going to make the move to the outside. So Chuck has fresher tires. That's the good news for the number 75, but he has work to do here as we come around to 27 laps to go here on 3 Wide TV in the Japanese Showdown 150 at Twin Ring Motegi. Want to thank you for joining us here for the Schue's Lawn Care Service Cup Series on 3 Wide TV for the Total Nonstop Racing League. If you're just now joining us as well, gotta highlight the fact that this is the penultimate round of the 2023 season. Garrett going to be a little bit of an off season after tonight, but or after next week, I should say, as next week we'll round out our championship at Homestead, Miami.
Yeah, looking forward to finishing our season, taking a little bit of a break over the next 2 months of American holidays, for especially you with a young family and me with no family and just needing a break from life. And we will regroup for the new year for some Truck Series racing here at TNR, but before that, we're going to crown our 2023B champion here in this Schue's Lawn Care Cup Series. And it's one of those things, Pierre, like, haven't been as active on Discord this season because everything is just so under control with our drivers to respect the way they race. Like, there's just no drama whatsoever. And I just have to thank everyone, our drivers, our sponsors, our broadcast. It's been an amazing experience, and we're not giving up on this thing. I know, like, since COVID, the iRacing thing has gone down, participation has gone down, but we have such a great foundation, such a great group of guys, and it's still fun, and we're going to keep doing this and putting on a show, and I hope everybody sticks with us. And for those that want to join us and get in the action, please, by all means, sign up. We'll love having you. We'll teach you. We'll do whatever we can to get you competitive.
25 laps to go, and we'll see how it all shakes out. Chuck Sweeting right now is faster than Tom Bourne, but he does have, of course, the number 99 to Philip Scott in between himself and who will be our eventual race leader when Brandon Buchwald finally does make his final pit stop of the night. He pitted last on lap number 49, so you do the math. He should be able to make it to about 15 laps to go if he does not get caught by Tom Bourne, Philip Scott and company before that point. They're rapidly closing in. In fact, you can see that with the graphic down there, bottom of your screen, about about 1.5 seconds per lap, but he's going to come down pit road here, and just getting it down to pit road speed, and a little puff of smoke coming from the rear tires of the number 96. Here is now, once again, our race leader, Tom Bourne. Philip Scott, 1.5 seconds back. Chuck Sweeting, 2 seconds behind the number 16, 23 laps to close in to try and make that late pass just like he did before that last round of green flag pit stops. Catching him is one thing, passing is another. We've said that multiple times here tonight. This racetrack has been putting on a pretty good show, but look at those gaps. Garrett, you got 1.5 seconds between the top two. Then 0.3 of a second between second and third. Then 5 seconds or so back to Bronson Stafford. And then a whopping 8 or so seconds back to Jason Schue, Jamar Dumas, who are relatively close to one another out there on the track. So some pretty big gaps developing here as this race goes on.
Yeah, it's the green flag run for you. These guys get spaced out, and a couple different strategies. I don't think Schue made his last pit stop yet, and or maybe he did and I missed it, Peter, but if not, stay out. Do whatever you can. Run that thing dry and hopefully you catch a late yellow. And Peter, for the chaos of it, I think I would love a yellow with about 10 to go and just let these guys just rack them back up and fight for it, because this is such a tight championship battle and we don't deserve anything less than just them 4 wide coming to the checkers or whatever we can do. And I'm sure Tom Bourne's, if he was listening, he's screaming that, no, we don't want a yellow, and maybe Chuck's saying that too because Chuck's good on this long run, but I think it'd be kind of cool. We haven't really had that late race drama as far as this season goes. Pretty much been clean and pretty sane, but you never know.
Well, what I think is funny is I think when we had that second caution flag on lap number 20, I said, well, we're kind of averaging a caution every 10 laps or so. It seems like we keep getting some cautions. Well, since that point, folks, we have had about now 57 consecutive green flag laps here at Twin Ring Motegi. That is closing in on 100 miles of consecutive green flag racing. So these drivers definitely know how to get the job done. And Chuck Sweeting trying to get around the number 99 of Philip Scott in front of him. You see little chunks of rubber. If you look close enough through the YouTube compression, you can see little pieces of rubber flying off those tires of the number 99. That tells me that Philip is really eating through his tires maybe a little bit more than he should as he tries to hold on to the spot. But you can't blame him. There's 19 laps to go here in the Japanese Showdown 150, and he would love to get another win on an oval with Philip Scott. Although this is a little bit of an egg-shaped racetrack, as we were highlighting earlier. But a little bit further back in the pack, Jamar Dumas just passed, I think, Mike Tellier for spot as we got this battle for second. Wow. I wasn't expecting the number 75 of Sweeting to kind of blow by Philip Scott quite like he did up off the corner there, G, but sure enough, Sweeting able to get the power down and now has his sights set on Tom Bourne out front.
Yeah, that wasn't much of a battle there, Peter. That was like an army riding horses with bayonets against the United States military. There wasn't much of a battle as Chuck sets his sights on the 16 of Tom Bourne, about a little less than 2 seconds and 18 laps to go. I think Chuck has it in him, but we're gonna see. You've said it. It's redundant at this point. Catching them is one thing, passing them is another. But also, will you get bogged down in dirty air? Looks like the gap stayed about the same. That lap, 1.8 seconds, and Chuck's gonna need to gain ground here. I mean, if he could gain, 10th a lap here, will put himself in position. But you can't make any mistakes, and you gotta be as smooth as can be.
Yeah, you can see that Sweeting was about 1/10 of a second faster until he got locked up in that battle with Philip Scott. And ever since that battle, Bourne has been able to just kind of pull away from Chuck a little bit. That last time by, like you said, Garrett not really losing or gaining as, caution! Caution flag is out. Garrett, you're going to get your wish here with 16 laps to go. Caution flag waves for only the 3rd time here at Twin Ring Motegi. Let's go to the 3-wide TV replay and figure out what brought out caution flag number 3 tonight.
Oh no, Robert Tripp here in the 35 TNR machine. Just, right to the inside wall. Back end kicks out, and we have a whole new ball game, Peter.
How did I miss that? That was like right in front of our race leaders. I must have been looking away, but Robert, there. Let's see if we can get one more look at this. This was like a slow, lazy spin. He's loose, he's loose, he's loose, he's loose, he's lost it, and bam. We saw that happen to Robert Tripp earlier in the race, was able to take a tow back to pit road without a caution flag coming out, but this time a caution flag waving as, whoa, here we go. Garrett, it's the money stop here at Twin Ring Motegi. Looks like Tom Bourne, Chuck Sweeting on pit road. Chuck probably did not want to see this caution flag because right when that caution flag flew, he had picked up about a 1/10.5 on our race leader, Tom Bourne. And we know that Bourne has short run pace versus Chuck's long run pace. Let's see what they can do as they get into their pit box. Everyone nice and neatly as they see right side tires going on. We'll see the jack drop on those cars. Ooh, Philip Scott, strategy call. He's going to come out of pit road first as looks like Bourne able to hold off Sweeting. But Garrett, what about Philip Scott? That must have been a 2-tire pit stop from driver of the number 99 Dodge.
Wow, Philip Scott, 2 tires going for the fresh air on the nose, hoping that he has enough speed in that 99 to hold them off for less than 15 laps. I mean, Peter, he needs to win the race, so why not? If you think that's your best chance to win the race, then absolutely go for it. Philip's proven his worth and his talent here in TNR, so I'm gonna be rooting to see if this 2-tire stop works. I haven't seen it work too often here in iRacing, but just want to give a shout out here to these guys on the lead lap. Peter, we have Schue, we have Bookwald, Mr. Gaston, and it looks like maybe a couple guys took the wave around. Maybe Valvano might have been the lucky dog, but good job by those guys who maybe played a bit different strategy, and they can put themselves in contention here for a top 5 if they play their cards right.
Yeah, they very well might. Meanwhile, Jamar Dumas in the number 28. Interesting strategy call for Jamar. He stayed out in his Ford Taurus, so he's going to be our race leader when we go back green here shortly. He's going to have to watch out for wheel spin. As it looks like our restart order is going to be Dumas, Scott, Bourne, and Sweeting. And then Bronson Stafford, Mike Tellier, Jason Schue, Jonathan Gaston, Brandon Bookwald, and the number 77 of Matt Muir. I think Muir is about to take the wave around. Looks like Bill Edwards also going to take a wave around. I'm not actually sure what's happened to Bill Edwards here tonight, Garrett. I'm not sure if he had any connection issues or what, but the number 5 has just not really had the pace he expected to have and finds himself being scored 1 lap down, even with the wave around he's about to take.
Yeah, you don't expect Bill to ever really be a lap down and not in contention. He's pretty much as solid and consistent as they come. We've obviously been racing with Bill or calling his races for years now, and he's just someone that keeps himself in that top 5 and puts himself in position for a podium week after week. And this trip to Japan has not been what Bill expected, that's for sure. You see guys like Jamar and we just talked about Schue and those guys playing the strategy right, and things just didn't go Bill's way. But I'm sure his mom's still rooting him on in the chat, and that's all that matters. Just having the love and support is going to make that long plane ride back to Wisconsin a little bit less painful as he takes the wave around here as we get ready to go back green.
Well, let's just update everyone at home on the current sports ongoings. Of course, it is Monday night, and there's a lot of sports ongoings right now as the Texas Rangers lead the Houston Astros in the top of the 4th inning, 4 runs to 2. Adolis Garcia again with another big home run here tonight. Of course, hit the grand salami last night against the Astros. I think most of the United States is rooting for the Texas Rangers for once, so I'm actually quite happy to be on the preferred side of the ball, or at least the game is. I don't think maybe if you're from Houston or you're in South Texas, maybe you're rooting for the Astros, but I don't know.
Go Rangers!
Yeah, go Rangers! As that game's going on right now, and I think the 49ers were they able to score right there before halftime?
Yeah, they did score. Christian McCaffrey on the handoff to the left side of the offensive line scored the touchdown, and it is 10-7. And the Vikings should be getting the ball back with about a minute left. And there's about not a minute left, a little longer than a minute as we're getting ready to go back green here with 13 laps to go. And the older tires of Jamar Dumas, track position. Philip Scott in the 2 tires to his outside. And here we go, Peter.
Yeah, and that was not a great restart from the front pack. Here comes Chuck Sweeting. He's on 4 fresh tires as Tom Bourne in the number 16. He's boxed in just a little bit. Of course, he's dominated the race, but he took 4 tires. The number 28 did not take any tires as they head down the backstretch. We're looking at 3 wide on 3 wide TV as they head off towards turn number 3. Bourne able to make it work. Now Sweeting's stuck in 3 wide back behind. Sweeting, of course, comes into tonight as our points leader. Bourne is the driver he's battling with. Still, Sweeting continues to struggle with some of these cars he's around. Not able to make hay quite like the other drivers as Tom Bourne goes to the race lead. Getting around Philip Scott. Scott on the high line. 11 laps to go. Here comes Philip. Strong run off the corner. He's loose. Philip, you can see the hands going all types of crazy out of the number 99 machine. Right there through the driver net window. Tellier now in the 47. He's diving off into the corner to get past Sweeting, but Sweeting's going to have to deal with the number 99, who is all types of loose coming out of turn number 2. Chuck's really had an awful restart. Meanwhile, Bronson Stafford has had a lightning restart as a 61 up to second, the highest he has been all night long.
This could be the type of race that Bronson Stafford, that 61, sneaks up and wins. He pretty much was quietly running in the top 5 most of the night. We talked about him early on. Our top 4 were running in the top 4, and here he is making his way up to second. Is Chuck Sweeting a big loser after that yellow short run speed? Maybe not has as much in that 75 as some of these other guys have, and Philip Scott now in these 2 tires just not going to make it easy for Chuck to pass. I mean, when the points leader is buried 4th in the field, it's an obligation for you guys in the top 3 to just keep him there, and that's certainly what I expect these guys to just fight and battle. And Peter, we might not be done with yellows if that restart's any indication. These guys were very wild and just going for it.
Oh, Philip Scott, big wiggle there off of the corner. That will allow Chuck Sweeting to have a run to the inside. Philip Scott definitely not happy on the 2 tires. 2 tires usually does free you up. It makes you a little bit looser here in the iRacing.com Motorsports Simulators. You see Chuck now getting a little bit loose up off the corner. That's a little bit uncharacteristic of the number 75, but it is go time. 8 laps to go here at this mile-and-a-half racetrack. Now Philip Scott going to fall into clutches of the driver from Sarnia, Ontario, Mike Tellier. Jonathan Gaston also, he's putting together a good recovery here in the number 72, Garrett. He's running up in 6th, trying to get a top 5, trying to run down the top 5 right in front of him. And if maybe Tellier and Scott can get side by side, that would be good news for the number 72 here, as he continues to click off some pretty respectable lap times. Of wiggle there up off the corner. You saw him kind of snap that car back in the right direction, as I think the number 97, or 47 rather, Tellier had a little bit of a moment in front of him out of turn number 4 as well. We've seen a couple of moments out of Tellier here tonight with a loose race car. But things settling down for just a moment. Let's go back in the pack, though. This is a battle between Matt Muir and Brandon Buchwald, as Buchwald had a little look to the inside. Nothing doing there as he stays in. Whoa! I was going to say he's going to stay down there in 9th, but Garrett, he drove it into turn number 3, opened the door on Muir, and Muir had to check up. Now he's under fire from the lap car of Vincent Valvano. But if Muir doesn't watch out, he will be locked in a battle for 9th with Jason Schue here.
Yeah, he is dropping Peter and Jason Schue, obviously, on some fresh tires. Seems to have a little bit of speed in that number 3. Peter, please look at how the Vikings just scored when you get a second. And but we have battles all throughout the field. 77, the 3. I mean, I think Matt Muir, we have to just give him credit, like you said, new to a lot of these tracks and just has had a great season. And I don't think he's going to be satisfied with a 9th or 10th tonight, but it's been incredible to see his growth as a oval race car driver in different cars and different tracks than he's used to, and I'm certainly glad to have him as part of TNR. Very helpful and talented guy, and I hope he sticks around for a long time to come.
I think that Jordan Addison just intercepted an interception. A double interception is a completion, I think, is what that was. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive as the Vikings tack on 7 points right before the halftime whistle is blown there. Looks like The whistle about to be blown here on full time at Twin Ring Motegi. 4 laps to go. You're not missing anything out front. Tom Bourne out front. Bronson Stafford and Chuck Sweeting in third. Those 3 drivers maintaining about anywhere between a half second to 0.3 of a second between each other. Chuck trying to do all he can to roll back in Bronson Stafford on this run, but he's doing a good job of it. He's definitely closing in on the number 61. Just is there enough time to pry open that battle for the second spot while Chuck's really driving into the corner? He's liking that higher groove, and then watch, he kind of cuts it back down a little bit later. Yeah, definitely finding some time, but you have to think it's a little bit too little too late for the number 75. We'll ride on board with him here as he gets right up to the 61. The 61 will be able to pull away a little bit up off of the corner because of that higher entry groove that he used. 2 laps to go. White flag in the air next time by in the penultimate round of the season. You're going to be looking at Tom Bourne maybe breaking this down to just a point or 2 going into next week at Homestead in Miami. Garrett, they have the championship 4 in real life, but we might be looking at a heads-up battle for the championship between Tom Bourne and Chuck Sweeting next week.
It's certainly looking that way, Peter. These guys are going to be neck and neck, and you couldn't really ask for much more, and we'll just be able to highlight these guys. And they usually run near each other on track. It'll make things a little bit easier for us here on 3Y TV, but what more could you ask for a long season coming down to the final race and 2 fantastic guys that I would love to have as ambassadors, if you will, to the TNR family, a guy that I could look at and say, hey, this guy's our TNR champion for this season, because they're both so fantastic. As Chuck is giving one more shot to the 61 of Bronson Stafford, who's holding on to that position for dear life. But up ahead, Tom Bourne has smooth sailing in turns 3 and 4, and I think he'll carry us home.
Oh, but the 61 of Stafford ran high up off the corner. I don't think Chuck has enough time. Tom Bourne going to come across the line to win here tonight. Bronson Stafford just enough to hold on to second. He ran up the racetrack, opened the door for Chuck Sweeting, who had a look. Nothing doing for the number 75. He stays third. Philip Scott with his 2-tire strategy finishes in 4th. Tellier in 5th. Mr. Gaston comes home just outside of the top 5 in 6th. And then Jamar Dumas, who led a few laps here tonight. Brandon Buchwald 8th. Jason Schue and Matt Muir, our 10 cars on the lead lap. But for Tom Bourne here, Garrett, it was a great night. Very, very, very impressive for the number 16 here at the Twin Ring Motegi Oval.
Yeah, Tom Bourne just having one heck of a season, winning races like we haven't seen in a little bit of a while. We've had a good mix here at TNR, but Tom has been dominant. Chuck Sweeting has been dominant at times, and wow, Peter, I can't wait to get the stage points off Mike and get these points plugged in so we can see how close of a gap we're going to have going to Homestead. But Tom did everything he had to do after losing his points lead last week to claw right back into it and make this a fairly even battle with 1 race left at Homestead.
Yeah, 1 race left, and I think it will be pretty much heads up between the 16 and the 75 next week. And of course, you can't count out some of the, I'm not going to call them long shots, but Bronson Stafford will be probably about 13 or 14 points behind. That might be a little bit of a too big of a tally to overcome, but I don't know. It's gonna be nice and tight going into next week. That's for sure. That is for sure. Well, as Tom Bourne burns it down here on the front stretch for all the fans here in Japan, I think we will see if we can get some of these post-race interviews lined up for you wonderful people in the 3-Wide TV chat. So we'll let them get situated, sit down in the comfy chairs for a brief moment. As Tom Bourne, Garrett, he might run that number 16 out of fuel here tonight. I think he's going to be pretty stoked with that win going into next week at Homestead.
Well, you want to run the car out of fuel, Peter, because you just don't think you want to transport that thing back to America. Wow, what was going on there? Let's take a look at the battle here between the 47 of Floppy and Bill. They're letting off some steam, having a good time. That's pretty cool. These guys get along. Obviously, it's not a post race incident that we have to worry about, but that's pretty cool, Peter. In a way to take our attention off of Tom Bourne, maybe running that 16 outfield.
Oh, the Antellier blew the engine. That was, yeah, that was, right into our race winner. All right, let's see if we can, on that note, let's see if we can dial up tonight's third place finisher. Came into tonight as our points leader. That, of course, is the number 75 of Chuck Sweeting. And Garrett, why didn't you take it away with Chuck?
Well, Chuck, you're one of those guys that every time I interview you and it's not in victory lane, I feel like I'm a little disappointed. You're probably a little disappointed. Seems like you found a different line than everyone else out there. It just wasn't enough to get that trophy. What are your thoughts on racing here at Motegi, and what could you have done to get yourself in victory lane?
The track was fun after I finally figured it out. It took me about half the race, and then I got it figured out. But I wasn't good on the short run, and Tom was just so good all race long that I'm glad to see him get the win. Honestly, he really got this place figured out. It took me a long time to figure it out, and then I couldn't be consistent with it. So yeah, I'll take a third. You know, with a late caution, I was afraid we were going to have a pile up there on that restart with old tires and two tires, but I'll take it, and yeah, we'll try to move on and get a better finish for the finale.
You certainly certainly had a chance to pile up, and Peter and I were talking about that. But how about Peter Short, watching you run this track from the beginning of the race to when you just said you figured it out about halfway through? He was right on you. What did you figure out that you needed to do differently? Was it entry? Was it a breaking point? What exactly was it? Just take us through it there briefly, if you can.
Well, in the middle of 1 and 2, if early in the race I was sticking right on the line, and after a while I figured out if I was half a car width, maybe even a full car width up, I could kind of diamond the corner a little bit, at least on the exit, and really get good drive off the corner. And then turn 3, I wasn't diving it in deep enough and using. I mean, I don't think I've ever used, other than maybe Martinsville, I don't think I've ever used the brakes as hard as I did here going into turn 3, and that's where I was gaining the speed that I didn't have it at the beginning of the race.
Well, it was certainly fun to watch you figure out this track, and it kind of made me wish I was out there figuring it out, but I would have needed about 200 more laps to do what you did. But heading into Homestead next week, looks like it's going to be about even as far as points between you and the 16, with maybe the 61 lurking. What are your thoughts on Homestead, and you think you're going to end up being our 2023B TNR champion?
I hope so. I'm going to give it everything I have. I love the track. I haven't driven this car there, so I'm not really sure what to expect. I don't know if it's going to be low line dominant or high line, or you can run the middle there too. That's one of the great things about that track, is there's so many grooves there. We'll just have to figure out how it feels with the setup, get some practice in, and go for it. You know, I'm hoping that we can bring home the win next week.
Well, if you win the race, you'll probably win the trophy, so we'll be looking forward to that. Before we let you go, Chuck, obviously the floor is yours if you'd like to give any shout-outs.
Just thanks to everybody at the league for all the good racing. Thanks to Schue's Lawn Care for supporting it and supporting the series, and it's just been a blast all season long, and I'm having fun. You know, even tonight, like nights like tonight when I don't win, I'm still having a great time out there, and there's a lot of good, respectful drivers out there, so it's always a pleasure. And thanks to you guys for the awesome broadcast. Can't wait to watch it back. And thanks to all the admins for all the hard work they do. And thanks to the fans for watching. And we got one more, and hopefully it'll be as exciting as this one.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Good luck, and we'll see you next week at Homestead.
All right, Garrett. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Well, Peter, we heard from one of our championship contenders, Chuck Sweeting. Maybe a little bit of a long shot. Not as long shot as maybe me winning a race, but certainly a long shot. Bronson Staffords ends up finishing second here at Twin Ring Motegi, and I think you're catching up with him right about now.
Yeah, it was a great late race resurgence for the number 61 machine here tonight, Bronson. You kind of sat around the top 5 for a majority of the night, but that late race caution opened up the door for you, and you kind of you made yourself you made yourself a thorn in the side of some of those other drivers around you, picking up quite a few spots there. Some 3 wide passes. Kind of talk us through that last half of the race.
Yeah, I mean, I had speed all night. I just could never close the gap all the way. Like I was, Tom and I were comparing laps, and for a lot of it, we were running the same lap times, kind of like most of the race. It's such a weird track. Like it's one of those weird tracks where once it gets spread out, it's so hard to kind of have something happen or close the gap when everyone's so close. So kind of got lucky with the caution at the end and was able to steal, a couple spots.
Yeah, that you did, and a good position to be in going into next week. You're maybe a little bit on the outside looking in at the 2 competitors in front of you in points, Chuck Sweeting and Tom Warren, but you've definitely made a ticket to a race for the championship next week. What are your thoughts about Homestead Miami?
Better track than this one. Homestead should be fine. Yeah, I've dropped the ball on points. Auto club strategy really hurt, and I think that's just pretty much honestly where I've lost most of it. Otherwise, because I think I finished like 6th. It wasn't even a top 5. I got like 6th or 7th or whatever when I've been finishing like with Tom and Chuck all season long, and like consistency wise went from the points lead all season long to even after the first race after the reset and everything like that, and then lost it at Auto Club, and I've been trying to claw back since, and I just haven't really been able to. Beating Chuck tonight was good. We didn't beat Tom, so that kind of hurts. Didn't even finish close to him in stages, so that kind of hurts. So it's one of those races next week where I think it's gonna have to be win both stages and win the race, or realistically, there's not really a chance with how it's so hard. The worst finish any of us 3 get is like 4th, so it's gonna be hard.
Well, stranger things have happened. We'll put it that way. Than seeing you crowned a champion. Definitely been fast and strong all season long here, and it will come down to the wire for you. But a great night for you here tonight, finishing in 2nd, all things considered. Before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Oh yeah, the whole team. We did really solid again tonight. I mean, Tom won the race. Muir was starting to pick it up. He just needed a late caution after getting waved around. Mike had a solid night all around. Obviously, you guys putting on broadcast, stuff like that. It looked like the race was actually not too bad, at least from a watching perspective. Kind of boring to drive in, but I think it's at least fun to watch, like the tracks and whatnot, like with what people are doing. But yeah, obviously you guys, and I think it's Shue's series, so I'm sure he helps out a lot with everything. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens for next season with TNR, and if I'll be back or not.
Yeah, well, always a good schedule. This group of people always looking to put something a little bit unique on the schedule, but nothing too crazy. Always makes things a little bit interesting for the drivers each and every week here. But congratulations on 2nd. We'll see you next week, Bronson.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, well, we'll let Bronson go celebrate his 2nd place before going into next week at Homestead, Miami. But now, time to go down to Victory Lane, where I believe Mr. Garrett Gleason has caught up with tonight's race winner, driver of the number 16 machine, Tom Bourne.
Well, Tom, congratulations on the victory here at Twin Ring Motegi. I just calculated all the points. You gained 9 points. You are now in the lead by 2 points as we head into our season finale at Homestead. How about some thoughts here on how you won this race at Twin Ring Motegi as my phone goes off for some reason in the background? And your thoughts next week heading in with the championship lead.
It's definitely putting pressure on the team. The car was fast all night. Didn't really know what to look for going into this. Just ended up running a line that I felt comfortable, and I guess it was the fast line. great job by the team overall. I mean, hats off to Chuck. You put up a fight throughout the entire race. If that last caution didn't come out, he would have gotten me definitely. And but yeah, it was a fun race overall. First time racing this track in years, and I forgot how fun it was. But yeah, it puts more pressure on us to just do what we have to do. We're going in there with a lot of momentum. I know we've won 2 of the last 4 races in the playoffs, and hopefully we can end up finishing in front of Chuck next week at Homestead.
Let's talk about that. I mean, you've raced with Chuck all season long. I think there's certainly a healthy respect, and you guys are both clearly amazing race car drivers and extremely talented. What have you learned about Chuck as a competitor, and do you think a track like Homestead suits you more or suits his driving style more?
One of the things I learned is he just doesn't go away. No, but in all seriousness, I've raced with Chuck for years. Me and him have always had a very good mutual respect to one another. It's not like I race him dirty and he takes me out, or he races me dirty and I take him out. It's always been hard, clean racing, and honestly, I've never really been great at Homestead, so honestly speaking, I'm going to give the edge to him. He's fantastic in the Gen 4 cars. Like you said, he's a fantastic driver, and I will admit that. But ultimately, I feel like I guess stage points. Actually, you'd be able to let me know this. I assume stage points aren't going to matter next week, right?
No, it'll will be the same. I mean, I will, if you want, we'll talk it over. But at this point, I don't think we would change this format, so it'd still be 8 points to win the stage and so on.
Okay. So I mean, ultimately, I feel like if I somehow end up right now, I have 2 opportunities to finish better than him in the stages. I feel like if I can do that, if I can open it up to a +6 or +5, and he ends up winning and I finish second, you know, do a little duel in the desert. I don't know, but yeah, no, he's easily my biggest competition, and if it was anybody else, I really wouldn't be worried going into Homestead that much. But considering it's him, it's kind of a it's gonna keep me awake at night for a little bit going into it.
Well, hopefully we can let you enjoy your 5th win of the season here at Twin Ring Motegi and worry about next week. But I know you always have a lot of shout outs with your teammates and friends and sponsors, so I'll let you have the floor, and then please go enjoy your win.
All right. Just thanking Sky Motorsports always for putting together a fast car. Hats off to them for the whole season. We've all been very fast, and I'm proud to see where the team's come. Fire News, Reaper Apparel Company, Ghost Energy, FRN. You guys for putting on the broadcast week in, week out. And Garrett for you bringing me here this season, and being able to race with you guys. It's always a lot of fun racing with guys that I've raced with for a long time. And my beautiful fiance Melissa, she's always watching, my #1 supporter, and everybody else watching. There'd be no broadcast if you guys weren't watching. So hats off to everybody, but mostly you guys and everybody watching.
Well, Tom, we certainly appreciate having you. And like I said, congratulations on your 5th win. And we'll certainly look forward to seeing you and Chuck and maybe Bronson battle for the championship next week in Homestead, Miami.
Yeah, definitely. It should be fun. Hopefully I'll be talking to you in some capacity next week.
Well, we can only hope that Peter finds a better partner by then. But if not, we'll certainly see you and we'll certainly talk to you.
Sounds good.
Take care. Well, Peter, that wraps it up from Victory Lane. Tom Bourne, 5th time this season. What a tremendous season he's had, and he's put himself in the points lead as we head to our final race.
Yeah, that was a very strong night from the number 16 machine, showing that he really wants this championship. Bronson Stafford coming home in second. Chuck Sweeting in third finds himself 3 points behind Tom Bourne entering into the championship. Bronson Stafford, for everyone at home, 14 points behind Tom Bourne for next week. Philip Scott comes into tonight, or finishes tonight fourth. Also, fourth place in points for the number 99. 32 points behind Bourne. Things would have to be really weird for Philip Scott to walk away with the championship next week. Mike Tellier in fifth. Jonathan Gaston tonight in sixth. Good run for Mr. Gaston here at Winnering Motegi. Jamar Dumas in seventh. Brandon Bookwald in eighth. Jason Schue in ninth. Matt Muir rounding out our top 10 in the number 77. Then drivers one or more laps down. Bill Edwards in the 5, finishing 11th. Vincent Valvano finishing in 12th. Robert Tripp in 13th. Bob Giaquinto had problems here tonight and finishes in 14th. Shane Ewing and Garrett Gleason alongside me both did not start tonight's 150-mile event. But Garrett, another great race here in the Total Nonstop Racing League. We really see this week in, week out with this league. Looking forward to next week at Homestead.
Next week at Homestead, everything is on the line. I couldn't be more pleased with the product we have, and what a way to end the season. And we'll spill the beans. We're going to start the race at nighttime, and it's going to end up in the morning time. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Credit a couple guys in the Discord for that. So look forward to seeing these guys battle for the championship with maybe some differing track conditions, and we'll go from there. We'll crown a champion, and we'll have some fun doing it. But
absolutely. Big shout out to our series sponsors, Danae Jewelers, as well as Talkin' Giants, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, and of course, Shoes Lawn Care Service for making this series possible here on 3Y TV. But for myself, Peter Short, and everyone else in the 3Y TV family, folks, stay safe and all that good stuff, and we shall see ya.